Hello, everybody, and welcome to Certified Life Coach Institute, where we use emojis
Your day,
respectfully. And
CLCI.
yeah, we had a whole argument that's nothing related to what we're talking about today,
Nor work, really, even.
or work related.
I mean, it's work
And
related.
you're catching the tail end of that argument, and we will not discuss any further.
It
What it's
is work related. It was a deep discussion over the proper use of emojis.
Yeah.
Actually, not even the proper use, the proper organization of emojis.
That's true. Also, by the way, Brooke, if you recall, there was a time probably a couple years ago where I had an emoji and I deleted the emoji because of certain events. So there was a precedent set to delete emojis.
Remember that.
I'll tell you about it. It was very I'll just tell you about it later. What are we talking about today, though? On CLCI Live, leadership coaching. Last week we talked about, are you a visionary leader? This week we're talking about, do great leaders come from great followers? Yes or it sounds like a yes or no. It's like a closed question, so let's just answer it now. Yes or no?
Yes. Live over. Done.
I'm gonna say
Dun.
they could, but not
wait.
every time.
You just jumped ahead of the whole process here.
It's a yes or no question.
Pump your brakes, bro. Pump your brakes, okay?
Yes or no question. It's both, for goodness sake.
Before we can't even have this discussion
Hi,
yet.
Ronnie.
We can't even have this discussion yet. Hi, Ronnie, and everybody out there watching. Please join in the conversation. We want to hear from you, and hit that subscribe button so that you know when we're streaming, so that we can join in this conversation. You can benefit from these amazing coaching topics, and make sure that you comment, like, subscribe, tell your friends, invite your friends. It's a party. And also, please properly organize your emojis. And we're done.
Or don't, and just go crazy with it. That could be fun too.
No.
I agree, Jen. 100%. Okay. So back to our topic about leadership and followers. Hi, Kat.
So we're asking, do great leaders come from great followers?
I think we've got to ask a question before we even start there. What constitutes a leader
and a follower?
Yeah.
There we go.
It's a reciprocal relationship. Now, we talk about all the time, like, oh, you're the leader of your own life, blah, 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 blah. We're not talking about that right now. It's reciprocal. There's two or more parties involved in this relationship. A leader, or maybe multiple leaders in an organization or group, and then everybody else who's a follower. And that's what I mean by leader. Somebody, let's just say an individual for now, who leads an organization of followers, and the followers follow the leader or do as the leader instructs or asks them. Does that sound like a encompassing definition?
But can we clarify, like, what does the leader do? Because to me, it's like the leader has responsibility and the leader makes decisions. If we're just defining it on its most basic terms, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's sufficient, we think?
That's sufficient, because otherwise we're going to be nitpicking different types of leaders.
Okay.
Which it might be like a leader that's like more directive, like a dictator. I do what I tell you what to do, and you do it to the letter of my word, versus, I'm leading from behind. I'm just here to provide the resources and the knowledge so that my followers or my workers can do their job successfully. Yeah. Two ends of the spectrum. We're trying to encompass all leaders.
I think to put it simply, I don't know if I heard this when I was doing research, but somebody who caretakes others' success. That's what I see a leader as.
I think that's a specific type of leader.
Is it?
I think there's plenty of leaders who don't care about that at all.
I don't think it's necessarily other people's success, because I think that it can be their own success too. Like, it's like it can be one and the same.
We gotta take into account evil leaders, bad leaders, and good leaders, and leaders that you would like to follow yourself if given the opportunity. There's all types. It's one of those words. The more I say leader, it sounds less like leader.
You're muted, Brooke.
Did I just couldn't hear what Anthony said, but
Yeah, I didn't hear what he said either.
He
Kind
said
of-
leader is one of those words. If you say it more often, or just keep saying it, it doesn't sound like a word
Oh.
anymore. Leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leader.
So keep that in mind for the rest of the live. So it's not all the time that leaders are originally followers. Like some people are just because of whatever privilege or nepotism that's out there, they just become leaders or arrive as leaders. Does that make them bad at being leaders, though, having never been a follower?
give me one example of somebody, like a real world example of somebody that has never been, was never a follower once in their lives.
Okay, so yeah, this is more difficult because I was going to give let's go with medieval monarchies, for example. Like you're born into royalty.
But they had to follow the king before them.
Yeah, they had to grow up. Children are followers,
And then
typically,
they had to kill their
of
king.
adults.
Okay, so you bring up the point that I was thinking that's probably a hole in my argument that children probably have to be followers to their parents if they do have parents to follow. But everybody mostly has an experience that they need to be a follower of either a parental figure or an authority figure in their life. I don't think there's really any getting away from it.
Exactly. So in that situation, everyone at some point is a follower.
Yeah, which really satisfies the answer to our question: do great leaders come from great followers? They have to, I guess. So we've answered our question.
Show is over.
Did we define what a follower is? Because I feel like there's a negative connotation that comes up, when people hear, "Oh, they're a follower." There's a follower.
Yeah, you follow a trend.
Let's talk about that. What is a follower?
If we just take what we said, for a leader, which is responsibility and decision making, the opposite of that is no responsibility, no decision making.
Probably the no decision making part. The responsibility is to follow what the leader does.
I think that you're delusional.
Who? Me or Jen?
Well, I feel followers have to make decisions, folks. Unless there's a knife held, and even then we have to make our own. We have to choose to do whatever we'd like to. Nobody's devoid of decision making, even if they are choosing to follow or choosing to follow the vision of another person or choosing.
You have to choose in order to follow.
Choosing to do what they're told. They're still making the decision to do that, right? There's still a decisive process going on. So I think that you cannot remove all ability to decision make from people who follow, because I feel like that is just a little unrealistic. But now let's talk about what was the second part of that you said? You said no decision making.
No decision making and no responsibility, which
is not really.
And
there's some
not
responsibility.
Sure that's true either.
So I don't think a leader is the opposite of a follower. Somebody who has no responsibility and no decision making is just not part of the equation at that.
Yeah, I would say
that would be like a tool that you use.
Yes. Okay. And even that tool has some responsibility. That responsibility is to serve whatever function it has, right? So
kind of like the emojis. Its job is to serve the function that I gave it.
And some people, their garage full of tools is neatly organized. Other people have it in very big piles. That's hard to sort through. Ronnie, we're talking about, do great leaders come from great followers in our leadership coaching 101 series. And I think we're getting a little too cerebral now at this point. We're getting really in the weeds.
Okay, so then so a follower is somebody that is doing what? We still don't think have defined what a follower is.
They are following
directions.
That is the verb in follower. If you're a follower,
devoting
you're following
to something or someone.
It
requires a devotion of energy to someone or something.
A supporter.
A supporter.
Okay. So supporter to somebody or something or something along. I mean, we can go to social media. What does a follower mean on social media?
Yeah, they're just supporting who has promoted whatever.
Potentially. Or
Yeah,
they're like a
well,
quiet
social
lurker.
Yeah, it's a little different schematic on social media.
Yeah, that's not. I guess I wouldn't really consider the people I follow on social media as leaders.
Right.
In the context of leadership, a follower is somebody who, if you're following the leader in the most
Sounds like
literal
we're playing
sense,
a game.
you're trailing behind them. You are letting them take the lead and making the decisions as to where they are going in whatever enterprise they're doing. So in this instance, Lisa is the leader of CLCI.
Yeah.
And whatever she wants to do with the company is up to her.
Mhm.
And we are, I guess we're employees, so it's not really followers, but it's close enough. Up to a certain point, I will do what Lisa tells me to do since I'm the follower / employee, as long as it's not illegal or unethical. Maybe unethical. I'll probably still do that. But as long as it's not illegal, I'll follow the direction of the company. So that is the basic definition of following leader. What we're trying to get at is...
Yes, but I follow you guys as well.
That's what we're talking about, right?
It's the whole basis.
Yeah, that's the whole point. As a leader, knowing when to follow potentially makes you an even better leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question, right? That's
the question. I don't think that's necessarily true in every case. I think that great leaders and great followers are just different things, and it's incidental that a great leader is also a great follower.
So we can sort of deduce already what makes a great leader, but I think this discussion about followers is more less defined. Obviously, we've already figured it out just in our discussion alone. So what would make a great follower?
someone who actively listens.
Well, and actively has input as well. Not just a blind, we're not talking blind follower, the worshiper, we're not talking about that. We're talking about business where if you just follow and don't do anything, that's not, none of us will be supported in that, right? So everybody's got to contribute something as they are also following. Right?
So I think as well, my idea of what makes a good follower is that they know how to manage themselves.
Yeah.
They don't need constant micromanaging or guidance from the leader. The leader can set the conditions, set the mission or objective, and the follower will do what it needs to be done without, hand-holding, essentially.
I happen to have a Forbes article right in front of me that details what makes a great follower. So I might be cheating, but I've already
but yes, go on.
I've already put this this link in the chat if anybody wants to take a peek at it. Essentially, what makes a great follower, it's not what it's what you follow, not who you follow, is on that list. And it says this may be a surprise, but the best followers don't follow leader; they follow the vision and the mission. And the leader is the embodiment of those things. So basically, essentially, if you want a good follower, you want a follower that believes on like a passionate level what the vision and mission of the whatever it is. So like I think Apple's a great example of this. You mentioned it there. that misfits, the big quote that's out there that they put on his wall that's not actually Steve Jobs' quote, but gets quoted as a Steve Jobs quote, but isn't actually Steve Jobs. It's a quote from somebody else that they put on their wall that everybody thinks is Steve Jobs.
I think you've reiterated that point like 5 times now.
Anyways,
we're ready for the quote.
Because he's a little bit of the not the Einstein. He's a little bit of the Edison of our day, essentially, in that he was very good at adapting and monetizing the great ideas of others. And so, that quote was up there. So I've always very important. People know.
What is the quote?
Let me get it for you. It's a long one. It's a very long quote.
Steve Jobs.
It's not, but it's not. It's not Steve Jobs.
No, but I mean, he's the one that's accredited it.
So it's here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the one who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So that is, you put that on a wall and a bunch of people are going to get excited about like,
you need a pretty big wall for that quote.
Right? I am, but that's like, this is, who doesn't want to be a part of that, right? Like we're changing the world. Like, what a way to get people to follow you. And I think that just becomes like a very important thing, is like, if you can get your followers to believe in what it is you're doing, and I would say you probably have to believe in it yourself. So you're all following the mission together. Both the leader and the followers are all committed to a single mission. So they're following a single mission. And by the way, who did not have that quote? I should give that quote to the proper person. I should take the moment.
Is it Brent Schindler, or what is it? Let me look again.
I'll find.
That's what I was trying to find, is who actually wrote it.
So, okay, I guess while we're looking at who the actual person was who came up with that novel with the quotes, commitments then. Can we sum that up as commitment?
Commitment. Okay, so a good quality of a follower is commitment.
Yeah, for sure.
And belief, I would say. Well, this next one kind of comes into belief. And if you're following the article, I'm going backwards. The next one is that you want good followers believe in themselves. What do you think that means, without cheating and looking at the article like I have in front of me?
Believing in their capabilities to, achieve whatever goal they have in mind or mission.
Believing that they have a real role in that cause, whatever that cause might be.
And
believing like a personal stake.
Yeah, believing that they're enough or worthy, regardless of whether someone else tells them that they are, or they're
actually. Can I go a little bit in deeper with personal stake, because I think personal stake is different than commitment. Personal stake means I've got skin in the game in regards to either my leader or the mission that is involved. So, like, if you work at a company, my personal stake might be the actual like shares that I have in the company, or the outcome of the leader and the goal affects me personally.
Well, and that can be, I mean, there's a lot of ways it can affect you. The bottom line, getting paid, it can affect you. You can bring in something like sunk cost fallacy and apply that to time and energy. I've spent so much time and energy at this company following this person that as you're there for as long as you are, you start to it becomes this thing where it's a self-perpetuating thing where I have to believe in it. I have to. My brother is a funny, he has a whole different way of looking at the workforce, and it's because of what he does. And I find it very interesting because I am a, there's something in me that's very much a loyalist. But because of the nature of the work he does, they're expected to leave the companies they're at every 2 or 3 years. Like, that is a measure of success in the programming world, is that you don't stay put. You're working to be headhunted and to leave companies behind. Like, that is the mentality. So he's only in a place and committed to a place for as long as it serves his needs, and until he can find somebody better or somewhere better to pay him and something better to do. And so like he is not a loyalist. Like whereas I've got for me it's such an interesting way to look at what you do for a living, because it's not what I'm used to doing. Probably a little freeing, probably a little scary, all of the above. But yeah.
I think there's two qualities to that. One is, I think, practically speaking, companies aren't as loyal to their followers or employees as they used to be. So it makes financial sense to switch around jobs. Two, I think that relates to the way that followers become leaders, though, and the benefit to the company. I think it's beneficial to the company that they bring in new talent as well every 2 to 3 years.
They keep high turnover rates. Yeah.
And the reason why is the Peter principle, which is basically you rise to your level of incompetence, which goes against the idea that being a good follower might necessarily mean that you're a good leader. Because what happens with the Peter principle is that if you reward people and elevate them and promote based on how well they do their job, you're promoting them into a new role with new responsibilities. Okay, they do good at it. They exceed expectations. You promote them again and eventually get to the point where there are different types of skills that a leader has and is required that wasn't a part of their previous job. And essentially, they're being promoted to incompetence. Like they get promoted enough where they can't rise any further, and then they're just incompetent at the job that they're at. And so the benefit to companies by, people leaving every 3 years is that you have to prove yourself for the qualities that the job requires. And if that's a leadership position, you need to prove that you have leadership skills and experience and, a qualitative skill set that's not easily demonstrated by like numbers and, ROI. So that would go against the idea that being a good follower necessarily means you'll be a good leader in the future.
Yes, it would. I completely lost where I was saying where we were at. I
was going off of what you were saying about your brother needing to switch jobs every 3 years.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, yes. But yes, it does. I said that it goes against sort of what we're saying. But that's not, there might be a nugget of him being able to be a good follower in there in the sense that he can go and thrive in any business he's in. But he is getting promoted up a chain. But we were moving on to this believing in yourself thing. Mm-hmm. And then you wanted to go back to this feeling of having the skin in the game. Mm-hmm. And how it's important to have skin in the game, essentially, and that a good follower has skin in the game in one regard or another. And I think that is true. I think that even if I look at it's a little thing, but I look at like people I follow on social media that I really like and look up to, and there are traits and things about them that I really like and look up to, and if they like deviate from that, go out something left field, or if they say something that really goes against what I believe or what have you, there's definitely like a sense of disappointment, right? But there's also like I'm rooting for their success too, and I want that to happen. So like there's this weird like attachment that I sort of get in that space to people, because I want the people I like to succeed, because that's them being successful. I don't know. It's proof that I guess I like the good things too. I don't know what it is, but I like that, and it does for some reason. Even though I have no true skin in the game, there's something I enjoy about following somebody that's consistent and following somebody that I like what they're saying and what they're doing, and I would be sad if that person.
Well, there's also like social proof as like skin in the game. Like if the people you follow are good people, that kind of reflects on you as a good person. Like, can you imagine the person on social media who just happened to follow Bill Cosby, Jeffrey Epstein, and
hold on? I actually no. I have to share this. I follow people that are very different and think very different things from me, because I actually like, again, like viewing a completely different perspective. And I like to see, can I tolerate it? Can I find nuance? Can I find compassion? So if you actually were to look at my followers list, you might think I'm a questionable human being because I'm all over the map. With
You are questionable. After this emoji discussion, you are a questionable human being. Just gonna put that out.
You know that emoji thing is gonna keep coming up.
But no, so I mean that's something you can't. That's like an overgeneralization based on who you follow.
But that's
right?
where I was gonna go. There's oftentimes a learning, you know, in that connection that, you know, Brooke, you were sharing, or a camaraderie, a similarity, that you're not out there alone. You know, Jen, you're talking about, can I learn tolerance?
I want to understand people that I completely disagree with. Like I genuinely seek that out. I think you hear that sometimes. I'm like, I'm genuinely trying to understand and I don't understand. Help me understand. Like that is a value of mine, is I don't have to agree with it or buy into it or believe in it. I just want to understand what this person is thinking and why. So.
Well, and I think all we have to do is look to politics to see how people can become personally invested in things and like just follow and be so invested that they're unable to hear anything but what they are hearing, what they have committed themselves to. Not necessarily a good example of following, in my opinion, but I'm going to move us back to believing in themselves and how it's important that followers believe in themselves. This specifically says they don't need to be told what to do or how to do it and when to do it. They just get things done. They also know and expect that their leaders will get things done too. There's a mutual trust that goes on. And they have the courage and confidence to discuss things, courage and confidence to respectfully discuss with your leader if you believe you're not going in the right direction, which is, I think, very important. And then there's a reciprocal trust that happens there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. The reciprocal trust.
Yeah.
The reciprocal trust, yes. From my experience, having worked different jobs, I don't know if that second point that you said about verbalizing disagreements is as valued as we would like it to be by leadership.
Sure.
I've had leaderships where like, no, that's not valued at all. Like, just do what you're told.
Right.
Leave the thinking and leave the policy making to the leaders because that's their job. Your job is to do essentially what we ask of you or tell you to do.
But can we even consider someone like that to be a leader? Because to me, that's just like a manager. They're just managing. They're not actually leading.
Yeah. Like, for example, I worked at an organization. I'll just say I worked at a casino. I worked at a casino where the leaders are so far ahead in the stratosphere than I am. Like, even with my own department, not just as the casino as a whole, as the public safety department, the leaders are so above on the chain of command that there's not really an interaction between myself, the follower, and them as the leader. There's lots of intermediaries who are the managers, like you brought up, Jen. But what those leaders require of us bottom rung people, you just have to do it. You just have to do what you are told to do and what's expected of you. I'm not saying that made them good or bad leaders, because I wasn't in their, position of responsibility. I don't know what was expected of them as leaders, but I can for sure say that wasn't something they desired in their followers, was jumping the chain of command and voicing my disagreements to them.
Well, I think, well, jumping the chain of command is one thing. Probably should not jump the chain of command unless it's, that's at that point. You should always first go to your direct report, and then, if that doesn't work out, then go above.
Well, maybe, okay, I just had an epiphany. Maybe it's the type of organization that, requires leaders to be great followers versus they don't require great leaders to be great followers. That's not really how the organization is structured.
Yeah.
So
it's the type of
working this through, let's correlate it back to coaching. I mean, what does all of this that we're sharing have to do with coaching?
Well, I think that you absolutely have to be both a good leader and a good follower to be a good coach. And I know that sounds like potentially like it contradicts itself, but like I said on the last live, I think the coach is leading the energy of the space. And then I think that the coach is also following the client's energy at the same time, like staying with them, like noticing, following, picking up on their words, right? All of the, not all, but most of the core competencies insinuate that, we are following the client's lead, actively listening, maintaining presence. So I can see both skills being extremely, extremely important to any coach. What about you guys?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that because I think there's times that you are most definitely just following their lead, but when you're pulling together the bits and pieces of what they're sharing, including the bits and pieces of what they haven't said, to reflect it back, we have to have the ability to gather the information, I think, not just follow the information, and reflect it in a way that can be challenging and grow the moment potentially. I'm just thinking of a scenario where both are definitely present. I don't think if you are not adaptable at understanding, does it have to be a leadership? I don't know that the name leadership necessarily goes, but how we're describing it, sure. Yeah.
You know how we call it the coaching dance sometimes? It almost to me feels like this dance between like being a leader and being a follower, when to shift, from leading, not leading with like a question, but leading like in staying grounded and staying present versus maybe then following a client in their words or in their body language. I mean, to me, that's what the whole
other than myself and Brooke, have any of us done ballroom dancing?
Other than yourself and Brooke. No,
there's a clear, I mean, with that's a very good metaphor, because every ballroom dance I've ever done has a clear leader and follower. Even though it's a reciprocal relationship where like not one is elevated than the other. Right. The leader is there in that case to make the follower look good. Same in the coaching relationship. The coach is there to enable the client to be able to do what they need to do in a coaching session.
Yeah, sure.
Mark, you were going to say something?
And I interrupted Jerome a while ago too, so we want to hear from him too. Go ahead.
Oh, I think that boat's passed. I forgot what I was going to say.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Brooke?
And I think I have now forgotten what I was going to say.
Something about, you know what? I do, but it might be taking us back a little bit if I do bring it back up. Cool. It was about initiative. I think what we were speaking about when it came to, types, being a certain type of follower and a certain type of leader, I think the initiative really molds what type of follower and what type of leader you are. And I think when I say that, I mean long-term initiatives and short-term initiatives. That's when you get the leader that says, you know what, do what I have to say, or do what I say, and then the follower to make that something that's successful, typically in a short-term initiative, is going to probably have to stay in that realm. For longer-term initiatives, I feel like it's a better idea for followers to maybe have a bit of a bigger role, to be able to step outside those boundaries sometimes, try some new things. Yeah. I forget exactly where that was in the conversation, but it came back to me, so I just wanted to throw it back out there.
Yeah, agree.
And Brooke, we were talking in the dancing field and how...
No, it wasn't dancing related.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about how it relates to coaching. That's really cool. Yeah.
And the leading and the following and I was looking back at the list of like, does your leader have to, it's what, what is the, looking back about what we've discussed, like, does our coach, do our coaches, and this kind of goes in contradiction to some of the things we teach, but we just talked about how a good follower has a stake in the game. and a good leader has a stake. Everybody's got a little bit of a stake in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we always say don't be attached to outcomes. But I do feel like both the coach and the client have a stake in the game. I think they absolutely do. I also feel like when we talk about sticking to everybody believing in the vision and the mission, and not it being about the leader being the embodiment of the vision and the mission,
Mm-hmm.
And the follower being able to commit to that mission. Well, I think our client is the embodiment of their vision and their mission. And in this case, we are very much a follower, we're following them in that vision and their mission. And they are the leader of the vision and the mission. And we are a follower as a coach, and we're following them through that. And that makes it important for us to be a good follower. Where we become a good leader is when we apply that structure, that thing that ICF gives us.
Yes.
And that structure that framework that, that keeps us capable of supporting that vision and that mission and following that vision and that mission the way a coach and a coaching session would in a coaching space. And I think that is where we are the leader of the coaching framework, but they are the leader in the vision and the mission of what you guys are working on.
That was perfectly said, I think. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say.
Quote that, put it on a very long quote board like the Steve Jobs one.
Clip that, Jerome. Make sure you clip that.
I'll put it on a bumper sticker for you.
Put it on a hat, like the bill of a hat. Like right here.
Oh, that's got to be some tiny writing.
And I do think that our coaches have to believe in themselves, and our clients have to believe in themselves.
Well, can you imagine working with a coach who was insecure and didn't believe in themselves? How would that translate in the
There's
session?
a lot of coaches. I mean, a lot of coaches graduating just out of class are like, I don't know. What if I don't ask the right question? What if I don't?
Right.
What if I don't know what to do? What do I do?
Exactly. So what is, how does that translate short term and long term? I mean, to me, short term, you just have to experience that feeling. It is uncomfortable as all hell, but there's no way around it. Like, I remember coaching, feeling scared to death and being like, oh my God. And I just kept doing it. And that feeling goes away. Eventually you realize, oh, okay, I'm kind of getting good at this. Okay, I'm getting good at this. Okay, I'm good at this. Like, you start to move in a direction where you're no longer like freaking out about it. Yeah. So long term, it doesn't last as long as you keep coaching. If you stop coaching, it's going to come right back, I think.
Yes. I think it's that practicing. I also think that's one of the reasons we have like things like reciprocal coaching and these things exist, so that you can get that practice and find that confidence and feel more comfortable.
And our alumni group, anyone watching, if you're not in it, call us and ask us, how do I get in it? We'll get you in it.
So I'm just going to move up the line a little bit about this, what makes a good follower, and we could probably bring it back to coaching too. The next one is you put your team first. The best followers are also the best team players. They know one truth, that they are only as good as the team. And guess what? Their bosses know that about them and think they're lucky stars for them. So how do we feel about that?
So a good follower is only as good as the team is. Is that?
Yes. I mean, yes. A good follower is going to support the team first, essentially, before themselves.
Yeah.
I think long term, yes, that's what we want out of a good follower, right? We want someone that's gonna help make other people shine. It's this I love this concept of I don't have to be jealous of the person next to me. I can still be who I am, and they can still be who they are, and we don't have to be jealous of one another. We're not taking things away from each other. Yeah. Because we are both, it's a mermaid community thing. There's like a big mermaid. So like that's one of the big things that comes up. And it's like, I don't have to be jealous of the beautiful mermaid next to me. I can be beautiful sitting next to a beautiful mermaid. that her beauty doesn't take away from my beauty, right? Her skill set doesn't take away from my skill set. In fact, we support one another, and we, elevate each other and get excited for each other and try to make each other better. And I think that is what comes from a good follower believes that and would do that, right?
Yeah.
I think the same thing is true of, so like short term, I could be like, no, look at me. No, look what I can do. Look what I can do. But that's only gonna go so far when you've got to get a whole bunch of people to work together, if that makes sense. So I would rather have somebody go, look what we can do. And I think that becomes important.
I think competition gets lost in that sometimes, though.
Oh yeah.
Especially sales. The competition in sales oftentimes gets lost because one has to outdo the other, and it's encouraged.
Absolutely, I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
How does that relate to a good leader being a follower in that case? I guess because that leader is also putting the team first as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the leader realizes that if the team fails, everybody fails. So
yeah.
How does that relate to coaching?
Unless the leader has a golden parachute, then they don't need to worry about that. How does that relate to coaching, though? I think that relates to, at least, because we're not invested in the client's outcomes per se in the goal, but as long as the client gets something, because there's something to be gotten out of coaching, whether or not the client achieves their goal. It's not like a win or lose situation. Even if the client, am trying to achieve something, but I fail to for whatever reason, there are still things to be gotten from coaching, and still things to learn and lessons to incorporate as I move on with my life when I'm done with the coaching relationship. And that is what I would consider as a success on the team. If we had to, bridge that metaphor, it's still a success. If I failed I guess even if I failed to learn something as a client, it's not really a reflection on my coach. It's more of a reflection on me. The coach is just there to facilitate the session.
Possibly. I think it's kind of 50-50. Because, it is the client's responsibility to get results because they're the ones that have to take the actions. But it's also the coach's responsibility to shift the way they're working with the person if what they're doing with them isn't working. I mean, that's what I think.
Which is where I was going to go towards. I'm not attached to the client's outcome. I'm attached to me doing my best, to learning, to growing, to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a coach. That I'm attached to. Because it contains my growth and doing the best coaching sessions that I can, which goes along with what you're saying, Jen, that I think is 50-50 as well. In one sense, but if a client is not, to what Anthony is saying, a client's really not participating,
right?
How does that go on? Me as a coach, if I'm really working and doing my best, and I know I feel it, I trust it, and the client still is resistant to that, I agree with Anthony on that perspective. Then it's not really on me; it is on them.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily make them a bad leader or a bad coach.
No.
It just means they're not maybe compatible.
Or ready.
Or ready. I think that's a big piece right there. Because there are lots of times where we can be a coach and we see this like bing, 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 bing moment, right? We're like, oh, shoot, I want to ask into that. I'm going to ask into that. I'm asking into that right now. And the client will go, I'm not ready for that. We're not going there right now. And we might, as a coach, think, man, there'd be a tremendous benefit to going there right now. But that's us being attached to that, right? We have to let go of that and go with the client, and trust our client at that point and let them lead. But that doesn't mean that we failed as a coach because we weren't able to peel back that layer right there. It can simply mean the client isn't ready to go there. It's not the right time. There's a bunch of stuff going on that just isn't the right time for them. And that doesn't mean that there's a failure. And also we have to remember the learning may not happen in the session either.
Yes. And for me, because I've been coached by multiple coaches at this point, sometimes the learning doesn't even happen while I'm in their coaching container, which is very interesting. So like my very first coach, there was a lot of awareness, like rapid awareness that came through. But I didn't take action on any of that until, a year later. And does that make her a bad coach? No. In fact, she was a good coach for me at the time because I needed the awareness before I could take any action. Or
we call that the seeds being planted. And when we're lecturing on that, the seeds being planted is the most important piece. Okay. Or
she didn't take an ICF accredited training and nail the closing to facilitate client growth. That's also very possible. And because I was a brand new client to coaching, I didn't know that. So could be a little bit of both.
There you go.
Do you think there's a skill? Do you think being a client is like a skill on its own? Like, do you get better at being a client the more you coach?
Okay, wait. I'm going to say this. Yes, absolutely, I do. Because I would hope. Okay, I'm not going to say either, Anthony, that it has to do with being a better client as you get coached, because I think you have to be receiving the coaching, doing personal growth, and being willing to go into those spaces. But that's only within the bounds of how we're defining what a good client is. Because my ACC good client, if I'm coaching for my ACC, it's going to be different than my PCC good client.
Yeah.
Because my ACC good client's going to stay in the what, and my PCC coaching client is going to be in the who.
And the MCC client is who knows.
And they'll be probably further along in a self-growth, like in a self-growth kind of process. So
I'm more speaking outside of like the goal of like ACC and PCC. Like, let's say I've already got my MCC and I'm just coaching whoever. And when I asked that question, I immediately thought of the metaphor again of the leader in a dance versus the follower in the dance. For the follower, you have to get better at it. It is a skill that you increase over time. And I think you are right. It's the same with coaching.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's part of the reason they say, like, statistically, the best results come after, 10, 12 weeks of coaching with somebody, because in the beginning we're bumbling. Like, we're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even necessarily know what coaching is. I don't know.
Right.
And then you start to go, okay, we start to whittle it down. Let's set goals. And then if we're coaching in the same space, they start to, they start to want to see progress because you're not going to waste your money otherwise. And all of these things. And you start to learn and grow and create rapport with your client and your coach. And absolutely, I think I think the coach gets better coaching the same client over time.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I improved as a client for sure.
You've got more information, you've got more understanding of their patterns and the way that they are making choices, that you can bring that up in front of them. I mean, there's so much that can happen with that client who's been existing and getting coaching for a while.
You know what we should do? We should have classes where we certify people as clients. Charge them money for that class.
You are a certified life client.
Coach. Life client, yeah.
That is scarily like coaches coaching coaches who are to be clients, to be coaches, to be cults, to be pyramid scheme. Like, no.
I don't think there's any other program that does that. And I think we can be the first to suck all the money out of
leaders of that.
Yes. I can see it, but there are pump the brakes. We're giggling, but there are some kind of coaches that do that, where they go, you don't even get to coach with me until you've taken my group coaching. You don't, you're not even ready for this yet until you do this. And that you'll see that.
I don't know if I like that.
I don't know that I do either. And a lot of it is marketing hullabaloo.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of coaches that will do that out there, and they'll be like, no, you can't even reach me until you've done X, Y, and Z. So,
I mean, I can understand that to a certain degree if I've been coaching for a really long time and I am crystal clear on who my client is and I can weed you out very, very easily, but it takes a process to confirm that that's who you are.
yeah.
I can understand that. I don't know if I think it's right. I can just understand it.
I will say, I mean, to a degree, there is a degree, like we have Acme coming up that we are doing that with clients right now, where we have coaches meeting with clients and they're going through and sort of running them through some hoops to see, okay, we know within the bounds of what we have to do. It's a 30-minute session. It can't be about coaching. It can't be, it has to be about real life things. We have to be able to tap into emotion. Is this person capable of tapping into emotion? Is this, so there's a lot of, to all those people who are potential clients, don't take it personal if you weren't chosen. There's a whole lot of things going on, right? That we are a bunch of filters we're having to run the people through to get hopefully what is the best outcome for the sake of Acme, which is being done more than just for the two of you, but for a group of people to see. So
we're already doing it. Let's just charge people for the privilege to. I'm joking. We're not going to ever do that.
Awesome. So we're about at the end of our time.
Wow, this one flew by.
Yeah, it did.
Anthony is going to host a live after this about how to properly organize emojis. So
I could do that for an hour.
Stay tuned.
Absolutely.
I
don't need any prep for that. I'm already ready to go.
Oh my gosh.
Should we answer the question now? Do great leaders come with great followers or come from great followers in related to coaching as our final thought?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say with the caveat of not all great followers are going to be destined to become great leaders. But I do think to be a great leader, you should have been at one point in time a great follower.
Yeah. And you probably learned what not to do.
I disagree with Jerome, but because it depends on the organization. And I think you are right in some circumstances, but in coaching, you have to be a great leader and a great follower. And there's no exception. That is a requirement from being a coach.
Yeah.
Where it might be different in other organizations. But in this instance, I agree.
So is this something for people who are considering getting certified as a coach to consider? If they are incapable of following, then coaching probably isn't for them. And if they are incapable of leading, coaching probably isn't.
I wouldn't say you're incapable, but you got to learn.
You got to be willing
to say open to learning. That's a different answer. Not wanting to learn, then and you'll
be like, deuces, this isn't for me, because that's we crack that egg the moment we tell people they aren't allowed to give advice, and that you know what that is right there. We break them and go, you got to be a follower.
Exactly.
You don't get to be a leader all the time in this.
And people will dip out right then and there.
You have to be a badass follower.
Yeah.
And you have to be capable of being a badass follower. It's funny that people, they don't put this value in this concept of being a great follower.
Yeah.
And they put all the value in being a great leader. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot of value in being a great follower, because every one of those leaders needs a great follower, needs an awesome, and then so there's value each other. And I think that what my final thoughts was, all of this comes to mind as we're sharing and everything is this a concept of respect. And I feel like there should be a mutual respect between followers and leaders. And there should just be this concept of respect that is being transferred back and forth between the two. If I'm going to be a great leader, I got to respect the people that follow me. I got to appreciate them. I have to value them. And it has to go the same other way too. And I feel like it has to be returned. There just has to be this sort of symbiosis that happens where I respect my followers. I respect who I follow, and I respect my leaders, and I hope that I am a respectful leader when I am leading. So a respectable, right? And respectful. So
it's a good way to wrap it up. Thank you guys for attending our CLCI Live again. Thank you, Kat, Ronnie, and David And anyone else I forgot?
Yeah, we had more. And
Yeah, we had more than that.
Ronnie, David, we had Nick.
I just see 3 people. Oh, Nick or NK.
And also next week we will be doing a live on ethical leadership. So we're going to be diving into ethics. I don't think Lisa will be here, but Sam will be back. So Sam Gozo will be joining us.
Yeah.
So that'll be next week, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every week, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So check us out. I'm going to let Jen sign us off.
So if you haven't taken our classes, please call the office, chat with us. Let's make sure it's a good fit for you, and then come on down and we'll have you certified in just 3 days, and you will start practicing coaching. And it'll be super uncomfortable in the beginning, and you'll grow into it and you'll love it. It'll be amazing. So I sound like a used car salesman. Geez.
I'd back you.
Yeah. What else? What's our send off normally? Blanket.
Join us next week. I think we said that already.
Okay.
Goodbye. We just dip out. Bye.
Peace
We're off the
out.
live now.